Hi.
Good to have you on, Sam. I'm excited to connect with you because we connected at Podfest and we hit it off and we hung out like all weekend together.
Yep.
So let's dive into this conversation because I think after the conference, we were both feeling a lot of imposter syndrome and like overwhelm and all these things
Yeah.
that went with being surrounded by these incredible people. So I want to get your take on it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's crazy, and I think everybody should know that we met by just like us sitting next to each other, and we were like, "Oh, do you have a podcast? Oh, do you have a podcast? All right, let's hang out." Like it was very natural, very cool. And that's how I love meeting people too. And so for anybody out there that like goes to these conferences and is like, "Oh, I'm not gonna meet people," or like, I was scared of that too. And I assume a lot of people are like going to these things, especially by yourself. But we met. There's so many opportunities to meet people, so I thought that was very cool. And I'm happy I met you. Happy we got to hang out last week or a couple weekends ago now. Um, but in terms of like what you were talking about with imposter syndrome and just coming back from the conference, we kind of talked about this before, but like there were so many ideas being thrown at us, you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, start a YouTube channel, start doing videos, start, getting better at your audio, start a TikTok, start a this, start a that, like make sure your email list is a community and so many things of like how to build your business, how to build your podcast, how to grow, how to be a better person, like so many different like conversations were had that weekend. And it was thrown at me personally so fast that I was like, okay, who am I? You know what I mean? Like how can I take all of this information and actually incorporate it into my like business as well as my personal brand? And I think where imposter syndrome comes in is like we were just saying, like who am I to do all of this? Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to trust me? And I think that is just the part of the process, because every single person that spoke that weekend was not who they are when they spoke at that conference, like, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of like an interesting take on it of like, if I talked to whoever the big speaker was, 5, 10, 15 years ago, they weren't speaking at these big conferences and having all this influence on people. So it's kind of like I look at it as like a you never know. You know what I mean? Start now and then you never know what could happen.
Yeah, so good. So you brought up something that I want to touch on and expand on a little bit because you said there was so much information thrown at you.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to figure out not just like how you can apply it to your business, but also what feels right in your business and for your brand and for your personality and for your audience too. Because something like we noticed is that every single person that spoke had a different way of doing it. So it's
Right.
like I remember listening to a speaker, and I think you were with me. It was either you or Amarita that was with me, and an audience member asked the speaker, was like, I just listened to somebody preaching the complete opposite of what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, they're completely wrong. And it's like, well, it's all up for interpretation as to like what works for your brand and your business and your audience. Because someone might be a LinkedIn professional and it might be like, that's where you find your people. But other people are killing it on TikTok. And it just
Right.
depends on like what is in alignment
Literally.
with you.
And just even the topics that they were saying. I remember I went to 2 really, really good, like, like rooms or where the speakers were and things like that, back to back. And like you just said, like, it was almost the exact opposite. So one woman, she paid off a ton of debt as an entrepreneur and is now making, 6, 7 figures with her business. And that conversation was about how she did that and things that she stopped doing and things that she started doing in order to accomplish that huge goal that obviously everybody in the room, wanted to pay off their debt and make 6 or 7 figures, of course. So she was saying, stop, um, stop just picking people, stop being so available almost. So like when people ask you, oh, can I pick your brain about this? Oh, can we go out for coffee and talk about this? She was like, you have to realize your time is so valuable, your knowledge is so valuable, that she was basically saying you should be charging. You know what I mean? Maybe not to go out to coffee, but like for podcast episodes or for just
Mhm.
like consultations and things like that. She's like, you should be charging people. She was like, you shouldn't have meetings if they can be fit into an email. You should be cutting like negative people out of your life. You should be doing this, doing that, whatever, things like that. And then I go to the next, I forget what they're called. Like
Like a
Like
𝗂𝐿𝐾𝐿 thing, or
y
was it something else?
no, it was like, just, like, the speakers, like,
Oh,
the
okay.
the
So like a
panels the
different talk.
panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, the panels, that was the word, and so, I went to the next one, and they literally said, like, "Be available to as many people as you can, like, try and be and do all of these different things, you know, like, try and nurture your community, and make sure you talk to everybody, and take all of the opportunities that you can, and it doesn't matter because you never know where somebody is gonna take you, blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, who the heck am I gonna listen to when I when I get home, you know what I mean? It's like, do I start telling people, "Hey, like, you know, this to just to talk, it'll be around, like, 50, $60," or, "Of course, let's go grab coffee, like, I'd love to have you, you know, whatever," like, things like that. It was, like, exactly what you said. There was so many different perspectives of essentially the same way to success, so all of the speakers or most of them were pretty successful, so it's like, "Okay, where do I go from here?" You know?
Yeah, it was all really overwhelming, like, not even knowing who to listen to or who's right, or and I think it's all up for interpretation for us to just absorb it and just say, "Okay, this feels really right to me, like, I love
Right.
connecting with people, I don't care if I'm getting paid for it because I enjoy it," and you never know where that connection's gonna bring me. Whereas
Yeah,
other people are like, "No, I have a lot of valuable information that I'm sharing, and it's like a coaching session no matter who I meet with, so I should be charged for it," and just
exactly.
it's up to you really to decide. It's your business, and whatever you decide, like, stick to it and know that you can, you could change it if it doesn't feel right anymore or if it's not right for your business as it continues to evolve.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, I agree, but now it's like, now what? You know, I think that's, like, been the question that's been on my mind at least the past few weeks of, like, where do I go from here?
Yeah. When I came home, I posted about it in my caption. I was like, I felt so overwhelmed and I felt really defeated and down and like I wasn't doing like what I should be doing or like I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And
Right.
keep in mind my podcast is only like 6 months old. Like
Right.
I haven't been doing it long, but I've been doing consistently. So when I came home and I was talking to my husband about it, he was like, Liz, like the people you're connecting with, they've been doing it since you were 13 years old.
Right.
He's like, they've been doing it 13 years, 10 years, 7 years. Like, think about it. You were 13 years old when they started your podcast. Like, what were you going to be doing? He
Right.
was like,
Right. Literally.
get out of your head. Stop thinking about it. Just start now and keep remembering that like this is your practice. He was like, you're still figuring out like who you're talking to and like what they want to hear from you and how you can help them and all of these things. Like you're gathering feedback right now. He's like,
Right.
how many people train for a marathon like for years before they even start the 26-mile race? So I was like,
Exactly.
you hit me in the face like with that
Right,
conversation.
right, I know, I think that we honestly need to hear a lot of that stuff from an outside perspective because of the fact that A, we're so in our heads, but B, all of us that went to the conference is most likely feeling the same way, whereas he is just listening to you a
Yeah.
and hearing you and being like, "No, like, listen actually listen to yourself." Like, you know what I mean? You've only been doing this for 6 months, for example, for this, like, venture,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, think about where you could be if you stayed consistent for the amount of time that they stayed consistent, you know? So many of the different speakers, like, really stuck out to me in terms of how many different times they tried something before it worked, and I loved hearing that, especially because it was said multiple times, because right now we're at the phase of trying things in our business, you know what I mean? Like, my company just launched, just launched, I was doing the podcast for a year, and then I created it into a business and providing services and all of that stuff. Um, but it's like right now I'm still at the phase, even a year in with the podcast and stuff, I'm switching things up. I'm trying out having new guests on and different like niches and like aspects and things like that. And it's like, all right, whatever works, that's what I'm gonna run with. You know, the only way to know is to try it. So that's what I'm
Yes.
doing. Yeah.
So good and so important for everybody to remember, like, when you're thinking about starting a business, everything's just trial and error.
Right.
Like, nobody has no idea what you're doing, and you don't know if it's gonna be better until you try something new, and it's like an experiment in high school when you're in science class and they have, like, one control, and that's, like, the one thing you change in your business to see, "Okay, did this work? Did it not work?" And if you didn't, or you didn't get good feedback, or people didn't buy, or whatever, you change it and you just slightly
Exactly.
adapt until you find something that works for you.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, you said that you've kind of been overwhelmed, but how has, like, the past few weeks been for you in terms of, like, what you're doing now, what you're up to?
Yeah, so when I first came home, like, I brain dumped everything that I could, and I was trying to figure out how I could make this better. So I went through my analytics, I was talking with my husband, and I joined, like, all of the post, like, podcasts, like, event groups. So I had
Right.
met with this one woman, her name's Gabby, and we're working together now. But I'm trying to figure out how to, like, re-strategize my podcast so that it's serving me in the way that I want it to, and also I'm able to reach more people. So right now, like, I'm all in the aspect of community building and relationship building. So I'm like, I need to focus on guest interviews because those are the ones that perform the best, and
Mhm.
I'm able to create more relationships that way. And then secondly, like, I'm trying to re-strategize to see, like, the best days that I should be launching, like, how
Mhm.
long they should be, like, making sure I'm hitting on the topics that people wanna hear. So I'm working with a podcast, production person that's going to help
Mhm.
me re-strategize and make sure that we're able to, like, hit the numbers that I wanna hit.
Yeah.
So that's where I am, like, with that. And then we have the book launch happening. So my book launch is on February 19th, and obviously it's called Welcome to the Room Mama, and it's
Mhm.
all about the same kind of concepts as, like, creating community and trying to overcome all the limiting mindsets that come up when you're starting your business and just starting and figuring it out along
Right.
the way.
Right.
So I'm grateful that you came on so that we could talk a little bit about this kind of behind the scenes mindset stuff that comes up because it's real, it happens to everybody, and nobody's alone when they're feeling these things. Like,
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah,
going through it.
definitely. Exactly, and that's where the importance of finding people who can relate to you on it, you know what I mean? Because if you
Mhm.
have nobody to talk to about it, it can get very like, it starts, it gets very, very overwhelming very quickly. So, yeah, finding, like, a good community and just, like, people to talk to that can relate is also very important as an entrepreneur
Yes.
specifically, you know?
Yeah, and even I talk about this in my book. We have, like, in our inner circle, like, whether it's family or friends or people that you've known forever, like, they know the old you. And it's
Right.
when you're going and starting a business, you're transforming and you're evolving from, like, a caterpillar into a butterfly. So they don't recognize you when you become the butterfly. And you have to surround yourself with people that are going to encourage you to go through with that transformation and continue to level up in your life, but you also need to surround yourself with people that are not gonna break you down or feel like you need to
Yeah.
be like the caterpillar that you've always been. It's a unique kind of situation, and I'm really trying to make it like a movement of
Yeah.
sorts. Like, we need
Yeah.
to surround ourselves with these people and put ourselves around them. Like, that's what I did with Podfest, and I wanna go to more conferences this year and just create a community of women that are just doing it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think we that's something that we all need, and touching on what you just said, like, women entrepreneurs specifically, it's it's hard, and we have and not to say that male entrepreneurs don't have self-doubt or are, like, you know, just passing by, but I think that we as women can collectively, like, we have a lot of the same thoughts, you could say, and I think that in general, having that community, being there for each other, and, like, being able to be honest with each other because of the fact that somebody else like, I just said to you right before we started was, I saw your post and I didn't reach out to you, but I saw it and I was like, "Wow, like, she feels exactly what I feel," you know what I mean? Because you posted about it, because you talked about it, and that's something that I think, like, more people, including myself, like, need to start incorporating into social media in general because we all look at it as, this, like, happy-go-lucky place, and not to say that there should be, like, lots of negativity, but it's just, like, being honest and having a community that you can be honest with because there's at least one person in the room that can relate to you, you know?
Yes. That's something I took from Podfest too, is like to be more authentic, like
Yeah.
especially on social media and Instagram. There was this one, I don't know if you were in there with me, but this guy posted on the the whatchamacallit, like the screen.
Mhm.
And he had a Instagram grid and it was like all graphics. And then
Yeah.
there was one picture of like a little girl like playing in like a flower field. And they're like, he asked the audience, he's like, which picture would you click on to look at? And everybody agreed the little girl with the flower field. And he
Yeah.
was like, every single one of these is too salesy. You need to be more authentic, more genuine, post real photos. She's like, tie the photo that you're using into the podcast or your business or whatever it is so that it feels more relatable. Like,
Yeah.
people are trying to be too salesy and nobody wants to look at that. Like, they're gonna scroll right by it. They're not gonna search it. So that
Yeah.
hit me in the face too, because I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, like,
Right?
duh, that
And,
makes sense.
like, authenticity sells, like, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? If somebody wants to buy your book, if someone wants to listen to your podcast, if somebody wants to start, partner with you or things like that, they're not like you just said, they're not going to click on, "Buy my book," you know what I mean? They're gonna
Yeah.
click on, "This was a day in my life," or, woman entrepreneur conference or something like that, they're gonna click on, like, the more authentic things. They're gonna see how you are, who you are, because your sales post did not really describe who you were. Not you specifically, but in
Yeah. No,
general, you
I
know
get
what I
it. Yeah.
mean? And then that at least this is, like, the process that I go through when I am partnering with people is I'm looking for who they are, not what they're selling, That's just kind of like that's almost like the end question, you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
who do I wanna work with? Who do I wanna partner with? Who do I wanna bounce ideas off of? Who do I wanna hire? Things like that, and it's like, I'm not really looking at what you're selling as much as who you are, because that is what's selling me on working together and things like that. So yeah, authenticity sells. Like, at the end of the day, if you guys get anything out of this, it's that be more authentic. It really does. If you're trying to sell something, like, people don't want to see that. People don't want to see so much salesy. I think that you should be promoting to a certain extent, you know what I mean, depending on, like, your consistency and your frequency of posting and all of that stuff, once a week or once a month, or whatever, whatever your things are. But um that's important. But at the same time, like, a majority, maybe like 50 to 60% of your content, or of whatever you're doing, should be just about you, posting what you love, not posting because you have to. Then it gets tiring, and then people can tell. I heard this at another conference, not the one that we had gone to, but this girl was talking about authenticity, and she was like, people can tell when you start, or when you stop being authentic, and when you start trying to fit into this box that you think you should, and you're not being yourself. And that's not the reason why people followed you. They followed you because you posted a video with no makeup on, you posted a video with, you and your kids, or you posted a video about, like I just said, like day in a life, or things like that. So yeah, it's important for sure. It's definitely important.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because everybody needs to reminder sometimes that like you don't have to stick to any special schedule, you don't have to follow
Right.
anybody else's rules, like it has to be like in alignment with you and authentic to you. And your business, like that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur is having the creativity and like the ability and the freedom to do what you want. Like you're not working for a corporation that says you have to post 5 times a day
Right, right.
or
This is the
whatever.
corporation right here.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Sam. Is there any last
Yeah.
advice that you can give to a woman looking to start her financial and entrepreneurial journey in this world that we're living in right now?
Yeah, I would say advice and just takeaways, like, throughout this whole conversation, be authentic, have a community, surround yourself with a community, whether you're paying to be in a community or it's a free Facebook group or something like that. I think both are very important and can be very like, useful and resourceful for the journey that you're on. But surrounding yourself with people who understand what you're going through is by far one of the most important things to get through this journey, because it's a journey. By the time you get to the destination, there's going to be a new destination. You know what I mean? Like, every time you hit a goal, yay, what's the next goal that I'm going to hit? And it's so overwhelming as an entrepreneur because you're constantly having these goals. And like we just said, there is no manager being like, okay, yeah, you hit this, here's your next project. We're coming up with that ourselves. So I think surrounding yourself with people who can really, like, attest to what you're saying, so you don't feel crazy, so you don't feel like you're sounding crazy, is, like, very, very important. Surround yourself with positive people, and yeah, just, like, get more involved in things as well. Get more involved in things that you love, because then whatever you're doing, whatever entrepreneur journey you're on, will not feel like a chore or like a job as much as it will feel like fun.
So good. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
on. And can you just share with everybody what your podcast is called and where they can find you?
Sure. So my podcast is called Lifestyle Redesign Podcast, and that is also the name of my company, which is a media agency where we have the podcast, we have a blog, we have tons of resources. The overall mission is to inspire you to turn your dreams into reality by using these different resources. They're all free to use. And then we also have paid services from creating travel itineraries to project management, business management, social media management, and everything in between. So definitely check out the website, lifestyle-redesign.com. And you can find me on my socials at Sam Evans Travel and the business Instagram at lifestyle redesigned with an underscore.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
of
Sam. This has
course.
been so fun.
Of
And for
course. Thank
everybody
you for having
listening,
me.
like, please tune in every day. We're doing these lives with a different entrepreneur that's sharing her story and some insight for you when you're starting your journey as an entrepreneur. And go get the book when it goes live on February 19th. It's Welcome to the Real Mama. Thanks
Yay.
again.